All right, what's up, everybody? This is Cody, aka DFS Prodigy, coming to you live with my friend Tristan from DFS Coach. Basically, we're going to dig into the NFL Week 17. It's a fun-filled slate. It's much better than the preseason slate. Than what we have noticed, we just break down basically our core picks, who we like, who we don't like. We're going team by team also instead of position by position. I think going team by team is much better, in my opinion. But how's it going, man?
I'm doing well, Cody. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I did just want to give a quick shout out to our chat, our Discord. We are approaching 400 people in the chat. We'd love for everyone to join. You can find that link on my Instagram at DFS Coach or on my Twitter at DFSW. Everyone is welcome, so we really encourage you guys to get in. We're filming this on Friday afternoon, so obviously things are going to change. We will be discussing those things in chat. So we'd love for all of you guys to join.
Exactly, man, which I will post a link to the DFS Coach Discord in the YouTube description, which everybody can find. Basically, click the link, join. I'll be breaking down NBA. Tristan does NFL. We basically just try to tag team it. It's been great so far. That's a lot of cool people in the chat. I think it's been fun. I basically can't wait to get the video out, man, and then basically just talk about it with other people. And it's been fun, like I said. So let's dig in, though, to Week 17. So we already have news coming out, which we'll discuss later in the Saints game. But starting off with the Jets and Patriots, who do you like in this first game, man?
So first and foremost, I think we both like Ty Johnson. He's $4,300. We have Frank Gore's out and LaMichael P. Ryan. When Frank Gore got hurt in Week 13 versus the Raiders, Ty Johnson had 22 rushes for 104 yards and a touchdown. He added 2 catches for 13 yards too. New England is dead last in rushing DVOA according to Football Outsiders. So I'm really liking Ty Johnson here. My only concern would be the low total in this game. The total is only 39.5. And then Adam Gase. Obviously, you can never trust Adam Gase. It looks like Ty Johnson will be the bell cow here, but you just really never know. But I think that the price is low enough that he's not really much of a risk. So what do you think about Ty Johnson, Cody?
Exactly, man. So Ty Johnson in cash formats, I'm all over him. Based on what I researched and read, I mean, everybody is on Ty Johnson. Everybody knows who he is. We've seen him on the Lions. We've seen him last game with no Pirine and Gore. He looked good. I think in this game total, yes, it's low, but I can see Ty Johnson being a viable cash game option based on the ownership that it's going to be. Other than that, Jamison Crowder is a guy I'm looking at. We saw him basically have a blow-up game last game. Too bad it was at the end of the season, though, in Week 16. But
who knew he was a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the quarterback of the future for the Jets. We never know.
Right.
The Jets team. Jamison Crowder, though, $5,000. I wouldn't mind paying for that. On the New England side, though, I'm not getting the Cam Newton or Jared Stidham. We don't know who's going to see the snaps at all. But both quarterbacks, I don't think will be on this team next year, in my opinion. Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen with New England. So I'm not on the quarterbacks. I'm not on the receivers with Myers and Bird. I mean, there's not much I'm getting to. I don't trust the run game either with James White, with Damon Harris, with Shoney Michelle. We don't know how that trio is going to look. But other than, like I said, Ty Johnson, some Jamison Crowder, I know it's an ugly game. But that's where I'm looking at mainly.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the only person I wanted to mention, not person, but team, the Jets defense is only 2,300. Doesn't matter if we get Cam, doesn't matter if we get Stidham. I'm really liking Jets defense here. So they're definitely in cash play for me. And tournaments, they're totally fine as a cheap option as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me from this game.
Agreed. Moving on to Minnesota and Detroit. So on the Minnesota side, I know Dalvin Cook is out. He has a family emergency, so we'll be without him. Alexander Madison is 6,300 or 6,100. My bad. I'm not getting too much Madison. I think the concussion still kind of hurts him. We don't know what we're going to see out of him. We've seen the chalk bust with him against the Falcons, which we saw how bad that was. Yes, the Lions defense is awful against the run. If you trust it, I don't want to mind it. I think in cash games he's viable because of how high owned he is. And if the chalk hits, then you're basically out if you don't have him. So I wouldn't mind getting to Madison. Give me some Justin Jefferson in a rookie campaign narrative. He needs, what was it, 100 yards I think he needs. What does he need?
Right around there. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's just over 100 yards for the rookie receiving record.
So he's going to be out there trying to get that. And of course, you can line him up with his quarterback who's going to do it for him. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, I wouldn't mind at all. If you want to get some Adam Thielen to be different, I wouldn't mind that. On the Lions side, you can look to Marvin Jones Jr. as a viable option, similar to Jamison Crowder, but you're playing with basically just a broken Matthew Stafford, so you don't know what we're going to get out of him. I mean, it's a new injury every single week. I don't know how the man's standing. But like I said, if you want to get to Marvin Jones, some Matthew Stafford mixed in, get you the slinging Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson, I wouldn't mind that. What about you, man?
Yeah, totally agree again. I wrote down Alexander Madison is an interesting play, and historically, he's been the lead back when Dalvin Cook goes out. But just like you said, he was struck earlier in the year, and he failed miserably. Don't love him in cash. If he was cheaper, I would be more on him. But at 6,100, it's kind of that price tag's kind of prohibitive. So it's a little bit tough for me to pay. Just like you said, I love Justin Jefferson. I really like Marvin Jones. I think that a lot of people are going to be off him. From last week, he was chalk on the 3-game slate on Saturday, and he absolutely failed. So I think that people are going to be off him. And then I can't remember if you mentioned DeAndre Swift, Cody, but I like DeAndre Swift. He's got five straight games with exactly 5 targets, so he's getting good usage in the passing game. And he saw 10 rushes last week and was actually pretty efficient overall against Tampa Bay. And Minnesota is a lot easier defense to face than Tampa Bay. So I think I'm not really going to go there in cash, but I think that Swift is definitely in consideration for tournaments, and he's a pretty good tournament play at that.
Agreed. I wouldn't mind getting to some DeAndre Swift whatsoever as a pivot to Alexander Madison and the similar price point at all. Moving on to Miami and the Bills. Start us off with this game, man. How do you feel about this one?
So we talked a little bit before the video. Cody likes this game. I'm a little bit less on it. I like certain pieces from it. I think we both like Steph Diggs. And then the guy that we both really agreed on was Gabriel Davis. What was his price again? He was like 40. Let me see here. He's 3.6. Oh my God, he's 3.6. Yeah. Like, it's just a smash price. And my concern with this game is that Buffalo, they're pretty much locked into the 2 or the 3 seed. If they win, they get the 2 seed. Or if the Steelers lose, they also get the 2 seed. So, and the Steelers are sitting some guys. It's likely that they're going to lose to the Browns if you're looking at the spread. So I think that we could see Buffalo maybe in the second half. If they see that the Steelers are losing, they could easily rest guys. But the reason we like Gabriel Davis is I think that he'll be on the field regardless of that. Regardless if they're sitting guys, I think he's going to be on the field because they're going to sit. They're going to sit Steph Diggs if they're up by a lot. Cole Beasley has already been ruled out, and John Brown has had his own issues getting on the field. So Gabriel Davis is going to be on the field a lot. He's 3,600. I think he's definitely in play for cash games and a fantastic tournament play too. What do you got, Cody?
Yeah, I think so too. I would be on more so on the Dolphins side if Fitzpatrick was playing, but given Tua starting, I'm not really getting into a lot of the passing game of Miami. But I'm mainly looking at Myles Gaskin. I think he's way too cheap at 6,500. He's the rookie. Basically, he's underrated in my opinion. Still, he's going to see the attempts. He's going to see basically all the touches he can get. I like him a ton. I like me some Stephon Diggs with Josh Allen as a top stack. I think that stack is going to go long. I think Stephon Diggs is a good narrative trying to break the Bills' record in receiving yards in the single season. I think he's going to try to get it. I'm not on the running game of the Bills. I'm off of that. But then mainly I'm just looking at the very top with the core 3 of Gaskin, of Allen, and Diggs. Like you said, Gabriel Davis, too cheap in my opinion. He's a rookie. He's going to see the snaps as he can get. And that's basically where I'm looking at in this game. I don't mind this game whatsoever. Moving on to a not so good game, in my opinion. Ravens and Bengals. So there's not a ton I like in this game. If you want to run Lamar Jackson naked, as I mean by that is basically just run him as a single player. You see it a lot with kind of rushing quarterbacks with like Kyler Murray or Cam Newton. You see it a lot. But what I mean now is Lamar Jackson could be by himself in the lineup with no receivers, but I don't mind doing that. I don't mind doing him with Mark Andrews, who's a cheap option. But other than that, man, that's mainly where I'm looking at in this game. What about you?
Yeah, pretty simple. I totally agree. Lamar Jackson's probably the only guy I would play from this game, and I really don't see. I like to play Lamar Jackson in games where he has, a really big ceiling, and that typically comes in games versus teams that can push him. I don't really see how Cincinnati pushes Baltimore here, so I totally agree. I'm not really on this game.
Exactly. It's just kind of a stay away game for me.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh and the Browns. Talk to me about this game, man. What do you think?
So interesting spot here for playoffs. Like I mentioned earlier with the Bills, the Steelers are pretty much locked into that 3 seed, especially if they lose, they're obviously locked into that 3 seed. Cleveland needs a win to get in. Or I'm sorry, I think that they can lose and get in, but I think that but they need some help. So sorry about that. I didn't have that written down, but my favorite play from this game is Rashard Higgins at 4,500, wide receiver for the Browns. He's coming back. Had the week off, as did all of the Browns wide receivers last week from the COVID stuff. He didn't have it. He was just in contact with someone who did. So I'm assuming he's fully healthy. He's had really good target counts lately. And the Browns are going to come out firing. They're going to want to win this game, and they're 9-point favorites. I doubt that they're going to want to leave it up to chance. So I think we could see them jump out to a big lead. I like all the Browns guys. I think that Nick Chubb is a little bit expensive for my taste. Kareem Hunt is slightly underpriced. I think that I'd rather go him than Chubb, just for the price difference. But other than that, I'm not really on anyone on the Steelers side of things. We don't really know who's going to be sitting outside of Ben Roethlisberger, but it's kind of just a tough spot for the Steelers. So it's actually why I like the Browns defense. They're only 2,500, but yeah, I like the Browns side, mainly Browns defense, and Rashard Higgins will be my two favorites.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like me some Kareem Hunt. I wouldn't mind getting to
Mhm.
him at a cheap price point. I think he's still going to see the snaps and the touches. Rashard Higgins is a cheap option with the Baker Mayfield. He's only 5,500. I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
getting to that. I think they're going to need a win. So I wouldn't mind getting into the Browns' key pieces with Landry, with Higgins, with Hunt, with Baker.
Mhm.
Chubb is a little high price, like you said, but I wouldn't mind trying to fit him into a lineup.
Yeah.
But on the Steelers, there's nobody on the Steelers team I'm looking at. So that basically wraps up for that game.
Mhm.
Giants and Cowboys. This is going to be an ugly competitive game. Both guys need a win. Both are just trying to fight for a playoff spot. I mean, I saw a stat where the Giants could either win, go into the wild card, or lose and get basically the 8th or ninth pick. I mean, as ugly as that is, there's a Cowboys pieces I like though. Amari Cooper's cheap, 5,800. Andy Dalton's only 5,600. I wouldn't mind getting to them two. I wouldn't mind getting to a cheap Michael Gallup at 5,000, and Sterling Shepard with no basically who's out for them. Golden Tate's doubtful, so he could see
Mhm.
more targets. So those are just a few key pieces. Pollard and Zeke, I know those are two big names, but we don't know how that carry is going to spin out. Basically, it could be 50-50, it could be 60-40. We don't know how that's going to look. I'm off of them two as a combined. What about you, man?
Yeah, I agree. Their price is just so close. I mean, I would prefer Zeke if you're picking of the two, but honestly, I'd rather just go completely somewhere else. So not really on the running game here. I think that Cooper is a really good play, and compared to his upside, he's a cheaper price. And the only thing that concerns me with Gallup is I think he might see a lot of James Bradbury against the Giants. He kind of plays that outside role, whereas Cooper and CeeDee Lamb kind of mix outside and in the slot. So Gallup concerns me a little bit, but I do like Cooper. And then the last play that I wanted to mention was Evan Ingram at $3,700. I think he's clearly Daniel Jones' favorite target, and his target counts over the last several weeks. He's got 9, 8, 4, 7, and 10 targets. Really good target numbers. And the 4 target game was without Daniel Jones. So I think Evan Ingram is a really good price, and it seems to be his favorite target too. So I really like Evan Ingram in cash, and I think he can go there in tournaments too.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So I like Ingram a lot at 3,700. Moving on to the next game, which is Atlanta and Tampa Bay. I think we both agree this game's pretty good for both of us. you're more overweight on the Buccaneers. I like the Falcons side. I think either side though is great in my opinion. The team total is high. The team total will be there. Calvin Ridley's too cheap in my opinion. And he's going to be an odd spot. I think 8,500 is just a mid-range kind of price. I think he's stuck between two great players, which is why he's going to be overlooked. I like Calvin Ridley a lot. I like Matt Ryan as a cheap price point. He's going to sling the ball. I like Russell Gage with no Julio Jones. We'll see him get great targets. I'm off the run game, though, of the Falcons, but I wouldn't mind getting some Hayden Hurst, who's cheap in my opinion. On the Buccaneers side, Tom Brady, if you want to go with him and Mike Evans or even Chris Godwin, I wouldn't mind getting to that. That's basically where I'm looking at in this game. What about you, man?
Yep, agree again. Really high total on this game. It's got a 50.5 team or total between the two teams. So I really like both these guys. Like you mentioned, Calvin Ridley he's 8,500. He comes sandwiched in between Devontae Adams, and then we have Steph Diggs. Devontae Adams is 700 more than him, and Steph Diggs is 400 less. And then we also have Justin Jefferson, who's going to be popular at $900 less than Calvin Ridley. So I think Calvin Ridley could come in very low owned here, and he deserves to be higher owned than he will be. And like you said, I like the Tampa Bay side of things more if you're stacking. I think that the Atlanta side is more of like a single piece sort of offense, but I'm totally with you. I think Ridley and Hurst are the two options from Atlanta. If you're going with Tampa, I like to pair Tom Brady with two of his pass catchers, especially for tournaments. We saw that work out last week. I mean, you could have played 3 or 4 of his pass catchers and won in tournaments. So Brady with 2 of his pass catchers is always viable. And I think that, like you said, this game is kind of sneaky from a tournament perspective because I don't think a lot of people are going to go here.
Exactly. I like this game overall. I like the Buccaneers side. I like the Falcons side. I like both sides of this game easily. Moving on to another game that we both like, Green Bay and Chicago. Talk to me about this game in general.
So interesting game here from a playoff perspective too. Green Bay is they need to win to lock in the 1 seed. They can still lose and get the 1 seed, but it's unlikely. So they'll definitely be playing to win. Chicago needs a win to get in. So they will be playing 2. The reason I like this game is both of these offenses are really condensed, meaning that they don't have a lot of ancillary pieces to go around. So with the Packers, the ball is going to Devontae Adams. With the Bears, the ball is going to Allen Robinson and David Montgomery. Like, those are the 2 guys. I think we both discussed and agreed that we are not really on the Packers running game. Aaron Jones has been dealing with an injury. We saw A.J. Dillon come on in a big way last week, and Jamal Williams will be back this week. So I don't really love Aaron Jones, but obviously Rodgers is in a great spot. Devontae Adams is in a great spot. And those pieces from the Bears are totally fine too. David Montgomery been seeing a great workload, and Allen Robinson's targets have just been off the wall lately. So yeah, I like this game, especially those high priced pieces.
Exactly. Like, we'll see Devontae Adams even like get the ball on the 2-yard line. I mean, they'll choose to pass it than run it in the goal line. So I'm loving Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. That stack is definitely in play. With Alan Lazard questionable, you could look to MVS, Mark or Van Scaling. Basically, he's only 3,600. You can get to him. I wouldn't mind getting to Tonian. He's a cheap price point, in my opinion, at 5,000. I'm not getting to Aaron Jones, who more than likely is not going to be on the team much longer. A.J. Dillon has had a great coming out party. Jamal Williams being back, like you said. I'm not trusting this running game of the Packers. David Montgomery is seeing a ton of targets, basically, and a ton of touches overall. If we look at his game log, he's literally getting you basically 23 attempts, 32 attempts the past 2 games. The attempts are there. He's looked good this late season. I don't mind getting to him. Al Robertson seeing great targets. If you look at his past targets, at 13 targets, 5 targets, 13 targets, 7 targets, the targets are there. Mitch Trubisky loves getting to him. That's basically overall where I'm looking at in this game. Moving on to New Orleans and Carolina. Talk to me about this game, man.
So this is an interesting game too. We just got word, like literally right before we recorded, that Alvin Kamara left practice due to a COVID test. So they were waiting to hear back on that. So we're kind of like in limbo here. I don't really know what's going to happen. If Kamara were to be out, that would open up a lot of things. Go ahead, Cody. Were you going to
It's
say
hard to
something?
be interrupted. Yeah, he just got placed
No,
on
you're
the
fine.
COVID list. He just got
Okay.
yeah. So there's our news
Wow.
literally updating. He's officially out of this game.
Okay. Yeah. So that, yeah, I'm kind of just freestyling here a little bit then,
Right.
but we had
Yeah.
discussed it
I
a
wanted to
little
catch
bit
you before.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had said that Latavius Murray is obviously the backup to Kamara, but he's a veteran guy. Cody made a great point and said that if Kamara's out, they might just choose to rest these guys, especially Latavius, who they'll want to keep fresh for the playoffs. So we were looking at those two guys that Cody's circling right now, Ty Montgomery and DeAndre Washington. My guess would be, and this is a total guess right now, as I said, we're kind of just coming to this free ball in it, but DeAndre Washington is more of like the prototypical running back. So I would imagine that if Latavius sits, and even if Latavius plays, I can't imagine he'll be very much involved. But I would imagine DeAndre Washington is more the first and second down back, and then Ty Montgomery, who's more of like a wide receiver running back hybrid, will be used as like a change of pace back. That would be my guess. And like I said, it's a total guess. So yeah, you have any extra thoughts on that, Cody?
Yeah. So it's going to be difficult to see who they play and what they officially do. I wouldn't
Mm,
imagine now with Kamara being out that they're going to try to play big, meaning they're going to try to play Drew Brees, Latavius Murray, Sanders. I mean, these are a bunch of veteran guys. So let's remember that. Emmanuel Sanders, we know how long he's been in the league. We know how long Drew Brees has been in the league. Latavius Murray, we've
mhm.
seen him on the Vikings. This is a veteran-heavy team with Jared Cook, including him. So we don't know what basically their game plan is now with Kamara officially being out and on the COVID list. So this is more likely just a scratch out game until we officially know what's going to happen. If and so DeAndre Washington does start, we've seen him on the Chiefs. He's looked okay so far. I wouldn't mind getting to him. Montgomery's kind of the prototypical Cordell Patterson pass catching sort of running back. I wouldn't imagine him lining up for a ton of snaps. But with the Panthers now with CMC out, with Mike Davis out, with now they're going to start Rodney Smith. I don't see this game being a huge viable option until we know officially what's going to happen on both sides of the ball. Are you looking at anybody on the Panthers side, or other than the DJ Moore at cheap price point?
Yeah, so I think it's good that we brought up Rodney Smith. I think that some people will be on him. But like we mentioned earlier, with Ty Johnson being 4,300, we'll get into Malcolm Brown being 4,300 here in a second. I like both of those guys better than Rodney Smith. Just the workload isn't really secure. This is kind of a tougher matchup unless we hear that New Orleans will be sitting some defensive starters. But as of right now, I don't really want to be touching Rodney Smith. And excuse me, the only guy that really stood out to me from a pricing standpoint was, like you mentioned, DJ Moore. I just think he's too cheap. Even Robbie Anderson is a little bit cheap, but I like how they use Moore. And it sounds funny to say, but I like him a little bit more. But yeah, I just think he's too cheap, especially for the upside that he carries. He's probably the only guy that I'm looking at from the Panthers side.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Moving on to Jacksonville and the Colts. So Jonathan Taylor is definitely in play to me against the easy rushing defense of Jacksonville. We've seen the rookie have basically a couple of great games the past two games with 18 attempts, 2 touchdowns, 16 attempts, 1 touchdown. Then week 14, 20 attempts, 2 touchdowns. He's looked good. I don't mind getting to him at all, especially at a good price point. Now, especially with Kamara being out, that's going to open up a lot of the running backs. Um, James Robertson's out. So is Colin Johnson. So is DJ Chark. There's a lot of guys out on this running back, or not running back, Jacksonville team. I'm looking at Dare easily. He's seen good attempts. We've seen him last week have basically 14 attempts and he caught a couple targets. I don't mind getting to him as a good price point. I wouldn't mind getting to Laviska Shenault Jr. with Mike Glidden. We've seen him look good with 7 targets, 6 targets, 11 targets. Targets are there for him. I'm basically looking at this young group of guys on the Jacksonville team and Jonathan Taylor up top for this game overall. What about you, man?
Totally agree. Jonathan Taylor is really the only guy I'm looking at from Indianapolis. Philip Rivers really spreads the ball out a lot. It's tough on a weekly basis to know if it's going to be Hilton or Pascal or Pittman. So I'd really rather just avoid that. But Jonathan Taylor seeing really good workload and a great matchup. And then, like you said, from Jacksonville's side, I love Laviska Shenault. I think that he's going to be cash game viable for sure. And then the other two wide receivers from Jacksonville are going to be Keelan Cole and Chris Conley. I view those guys as more tournament options, but I do think they're viable. They'll probably come in low owned just as people won't really be playing guys from this game. But yeah, for sure, Jonathan Taylor and Laviska Shenault are my two favorites from this game.
Exactly, man. Tennessee and Houston. This is going to be a high team total game. There's going to be a lot of pieces in this game that I like. I like Deshaun Watson with Brandon Cooks. I don't mind that mini stack. I don't mind Tannehill and A.J. Brown. I don't mind getting to Derrick Henry now, especially with no Kamara. That opens up Derrick Henry as a top running back at his price point, who was only $100 cheaper than Kamara. So that opens up a lot of ownership for him now. That's going to be on the slate. There's a lot of basically key starters that I'm liking on both teams, and that's basically where I'm looking at is the starters for this game. What about you?
You're cutting out, Cody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Yes. Okay, we're good now.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, the Texans side of the ball, I'm liking a ton with their starters. Titans starters, I like them a ton. What about you, man?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like you said, high total. This is the highest total of any game on the slate. It's got a 56.5 point total. So I think if you're looking at a game stack, this is like the one that jumps off the page here. Especially like you said, Deshaun Watson to Brandon Cooks, and then you can run it back with Derrick Henry. That correlates really, really well. I love the Tannehill, AJ Brown stacks too. Tennessee needs to win this game. If they win, they get they won the division. If they lose, they could potentially miss the playoffs. So there's a lot of implications here, and Tennessee will absolutely be playing to win. So, game from both sides, from Houston and Tennessee for sure.
That's basically what I'm looking at. Also, if you want to go to Corey Davis, I think his ownership will be awful based on last game because of the 0-0-0. Basically, if you want to try to get to him as a GPP option, I wouldn't mind that whatsoever.
And Cody, I should mention too, Cody, that Corey Davis is a great tournament piece because last week when they played the Packers, he faced Jair Alexander from the Packers, and Alexander's been a shutdown corner this year. And so I think that directly affected Corey Davis, who outside of last week has actually been really, really consistent. So I think that this is a good week that you could get Corey Davis at very low ownership. So I think he's a really good tournament play.
Exactly, man. Talk to me about this Chargers and Chiefs game.
So this game is kind of tricky. We obviously have Patrick Mahomes going to sit. We have Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins sitting, as well as Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We were talking before. I got to think that they sit Travis Kelce too. It doesn't make any sense to me why they would sit those other guys and then have Kelce play. That makes zero sense. So I think later in the week we'll get news on him. That leaves the quarterback as Chad Henne, and he is 5,100. I actually think it's a really interesting price for Henne, who's going to be – I mean, Andy Reid is the coach no matter who is playing, and he loves to throw the ball. I got to think that they're going to go out there and try to win with the guys that they have. So I like Chad Henne. I honestly think that he's somewhat in play for cash if you can stomach it. I mean, at 5,100, you really only need 15 to 18 points and you're good. Like, you're solid because you got to pay up at every other position. So don't rule out Chad Henne. It is a risky play, so I'm not saying lock him in, but I like the other Chiefs wide receivers. We have Mecole Hardman. We have Byron Pringle. Both of those guys are cheap options. I got to think that they're on the field for a good portion of the game. Now, this is a risk too, so I view these guys more as tournament options, not really someone I'd be playing in cash. For cash games, I actually like the other receivers in this game. We were talking about Jalen Guyton before at $3,400. I know a lot of us played him in cash last week. I'm totally fine going right back to it. And then Mike Williams is another guy that is in consideration. He's only $5,000. operating as the wide receiver 1 with Keenan Allen out. So I actually think that this game is pretty interesting, but mainly I'll be looking at Jalen Guyton for cash, and then for tournaments, I think Mecole Hardman and Byron Pringle are definitely in play.
Exactly. I'm more so on the Charger side of this. I like Justin Herbert with the Mike Williams and Jalen Guyton stack. I wouldn't mind doing the trio of them three. If you want to be different, Austin Eckler, I don't know how his targets are going to look, but I don't mind him now even more so with no Keenan Allen. I think he's going to see good targets. Eckler. I wouldn't mind getting to Henny if you can stomach it and risk it, go for it. That Henny. I wouldn't mind it. That's basically where I'm looking at overall in this game. Talk to me about the Denver and Las Vegas game.
Yeah, so we have a 51-point total in this game. Las Vegas is favored by 2.5. I wrote down Melvin Gordon at 5,700. He was pretty chalky last week, pretty popular, and he failed. He didn't get any targets. He ran pretty efficiently, but from a fantasy point perspective, he did not do well. So I think that people could be off him. You could get him at lower ownership, and I think he's in a great spot. The other guys from the Broncos that I'm looking at are more tournament plays. Noah Fant, I think, is too cheap. And Jerry Jeudy. Both of these guys are sub 4.5K. Especially Fant. I think Fant is a lot safer than Jeudy. Jeudy is definitely like just a tournament play at that, like nothing else. But he got 15 targets last week. And KJ Hamler is also out for the Broncos this week, and he's kind of the deep threat for them. We could see Jerry Jeudy kind of take over that role, especially with Deshaun Hamilton will be replacing KJ Hamler, and Deshaun Hamilton is like this slot receiver. I doubt he'll be working down the field very much. So yeah, Jeudy, more of a tournament play. I think you could go to Fant and cash, but Fant is a great way either play, and Jeudy is interesting too. Not really on anyone from the Raiders side of things, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly. On the Raiders side, if you want to get the Darren Waller possibly as a top tight end option, I wouldn't mind doing that, but I'm much rather get to George Kittle, who's a cheaper price point. He's $1,000 cheaper. Josh Jacobs, we've seen him enough. I'm not on him or Derek Carr. I'm not looking at any of the receivers on the Las Vegas side. Denver side, give me Melvin Gordon and a cash game format. I love Melvin Gordon a ton. Drew Lock is basically going out there to play for his job. This is basically more likely going to be his last game for Denver. Yep. We might see him sling it. We might see him just give up. We don't know what we're going to see out of him. Jared Jeudy, if only he had a better quarterback that could connect the ball with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have been different this season. Tim Patrick, he's a good option as a contrarian guy. Other than that, man, I like Noah Fant. I like him more so than Jared Jeudy. He's just more consistent, more trustworthy than Jared Jeudy. That's basically where I'm looking at overall in this game in general. Talk to me about the Las Vegas or Los Angeles and Arizona game.
So we really low total in this game, 40.5 point total. Arizona's favored by 3. I think everyone knows, but if you don't know, Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp were ruled out for the Rams, and Darrell Henderson as well. So, and Cam Akers is questionable, and so is Malcolm Brown. I'm sorry to like keep rambling on, but yeah, all of these guys are questionable. So we're gonna have John Walford as the quarterback for the Rams. I don't really have a ton of confidence in this guy. He's never made an NFL start before. I think the Rams are going to really struggle to move the ball, so I'm not really interested in anyone. If we do get word that Cam Akers is going to sit, I'll be interested in Malcolm Brown at only $4,300. But that's pretty much it, man. Even Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins on the other side of this game in a tough matchup, and DeAndre is questionable. Kyler didn't look like himself last week. Yeah, this game is not one that I'm looking at. I'm totally fine with just fading this game altogether.
Exactly. Like Kyler his shoulder is messing him up, which we've seen that in the rushing upside of his is going down week by week. Hopkins is questionable. Edmonds is questionable. There's not a lot of guys on this Arizona team I like. Maybe Kenyon Drake if Edmonds is officially rolled out.
Yeah.
On the Rams side of the ball, give me either Akers or Brown, whoever starts, whoever's healthy. Literally, at the running back positions where I'm liking for this team, because I mean we have John Wolford who's going to want to run the ball and not pass a ton. So that's why I'm liking the run game more so than the passing game in this Last but not least, Seattle and San Fran. So I'm liking a lot of the San Fran team. I know that's scary when they're going against San Fran. Seattle. Give me George Kittle at $6,000. He's cheap. We've seen him look good last week. He looks like he's fully healthy. Give me him. Give me Jeff Wilson at a cheap price point at 6,000. With no Brandon Ayuk and no Deebo Samuel, give me Kendrick Bourne for 4,300, and give me CJ Beathard at 5,200 with George Kittle. We've seen them back in college. They looked good together. I'm more so on this 49ers side of the ball. What about you?
Totally agree. Yeah, I like a lot of pieces from this San Francisco side. I like Kittle a lot. Jeff Wilson, I'm not as high on. He just saw kind of a price hike from last week after his big game. And I got to think that with CJ Beathard, the Seahawks are going to want to shut down the running game and force Beathard to beat them. So not as much on Jeff Wilson, but I like George Kittle a lot, $6,000. He looks really good in this first game. Looked like he didn't have any issues whatsoever. So I like George Kittle. And then, like you said, Kendrick Bourne, really good spot. And then Richie James, too, is just the last guy that I wanted to mention. I know we had talked about him beforehand, so I know Cody likes him too. But, yeah, those two receivers, Richie James at 3,100, I mean, that's a steal. He'll be in cash game consideration for me. So I really like both those guys, and I like the San Francisco team for value.
Yeah, and I know people are going to want to go to Chris Carson, but everybody's questionable. He's questionable. Yeah. Penny's questionable. Dallas is questionable. Which I saw a stat not long ago on Twitter that their offense of the Seahawks has gone down out of the 6 of the 7 games. Their offenses look terrible. Like it's going game by game, their yardage and their TDs. They just are on a downfall, basically. And I'm not on this team whatsoever. I'd much rather get to the 49ers side of the ball. Do you have any last closing thoughts before we get out of here, man?
No, that's pretty much it. This was a lot of fun, though, Cody. Thanks for having me on. And like I said before, get in the Discord chat. Me and Cody are in there all the time. We're doing NBA, we're doing NFL. And like I said, there's going to be more news coming out throughout the weekend. So it'll be really helpful for you to get in the chat and kind of figure out what we're thinking outside of this video. So please join us in there. We'd love to have you.
Exactly, man, which I'm sure we'll dabble both in MLB coming up. I'm sure we'll do videos for that.
Definitely.
I'm sure we'll do some videos for NBA. I know the wild card, conference championship, Super Bowl. There's going to be slates that we're going to have to break down, which I'm sure there'll be future videos for both of us. And there'll be basically in the Discord chatting about it all. So pretty much wraps it up for us, guys. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. It helps me a ton, as y'all know. You can find him on his podcast. Go look for that in the description and YouTube below. And again, guys, thanks for joining in with us talking about the Week 17 NFL slate. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.